Let's say you have a really good family friend, somebody that's been good friends of yours for a long time, many years. You went to college together, had a lot of great times together, best man at your wedding kind of thing. And after a while, he started living in your basement. He had some issues, whatever, and no problem at all. Somebody that you think so much of, so you have no problem letting him stay in your basement. But then all of a sudden, he starts to have some weird behavior, some things that are start not quite to be right. But he's a good friend of yours, and so you'll just excuse and say, no, he's fine. He's fine. Everything's going to be okay. And then the guy keeps taking more and more actions that out in the public, and some of your friends start coming back and going, wait, isn't this your buddy? I mean, are you okay with what he's doing? And and you try to, yeah, he's just going through a rough patch. He'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And so now you and your wife, you start talking, you're like going, man, he really is kind of going a little bit over the line here. We need to talk to him. And he just denies everything, says, no, that's not true. We're not telling any of those things. I'm not doing any of those things that they're saying. Everything's fine. Just trust me on this. And you're like, okay, well, I will. But you keep getting reports back. Now all of a sudden you find out he's taken some of your money. He's stolen some things for your house. Now he's doing things that actually now then the police are asking questions because he's doing things that are illegal. And again, they're saying, now, are you giving aid and comfort to this guy? Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to feel? You got a long history with this guy, and you've been a good family friend of yours, but now he's taking actions that are potentially harming your family. I bet that you would not say, well, we had a good past, so literally keep doing whatever you want to do, no matter how bad it is, how illegal, how much it harms my family. Sure, keep going. You're not going to do that. That is where we are as a nation right now in relations to Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Not with Israel per se, not with the Israeli people, but with their leader and their policies, Benjamin Netanyahu. Because we are now past the point, way past the point to where even American interests are being harmed. And one of those interests is our values and morals as a nation. The very things that we try to tell everybody, like Russia, all over the world, that you have to abide by these international norms and the international rules and all that. We love to say that, especially to Russia, to China, to North Korea, all these places. But when it comes to the guy living in our basement, now all of a sudden we want to have a different set of rules. Now that's starting to change, but it's not changing fast enough because Netanyahu is taking actions that are increasingly working against our interest. And I'm going to show you how that's going to work here. And I'm going to tell you what we need to do and what Biden needs to do right now, because he's the only one in the power to do something about it. But it is time, point blank, for Biden to say no to Netanyahu and change the storyline to end this immoral activity where it is killing women and children and is about to kill more. Now, first of all, let's see what Netanyahu's been saying, because here in just the last few days, he said a number of statements which deserve some closer deep dive scrutiny, which we're about to give you right now. First of all, here's this on the 11th.
Victory is within reach. We're going to do it. We're going to get the remaining Hamas terrorist battalions in Rafah, which is the last bastion, but we're going to do it. And in this, I agree with the Americans. We're going to do it while providing safe passage for the civilian population so they can leave. We're not cavalier about this. This is part of our war effort to get civilians out of harm's way. It's part of Hamas's effort to keep them in harm's way. But we've so far succeeded, and we're going to succeed again. Those who say that under no circumstances should we enter Rafah are basically saying, lose the war, keep Hamas there.
Okay, 2 big points. That's flatly untrue. This, either he's lying or he's unbelievably delusional when he says they've been doing a great job at relocating people and taking care of them. They've done nothing of the sort. There is nothing like that going on. That's why there have been almost 30,000 Palestinian people who have been killed. The vast majority, 2/3 by most counts, women and children. It's just unfathomable that with that body count, you just keep going. And you're going to see some of what we're talking about in a minute. This is, again, don't need to take my word for anything. We have actual video and some other things to show you, which will validate what I'm saying. But the last thing here where he's talking about peace, he's doing the exact opposite. There is no chance that what he's doing there is going to bring peace to anybody. But those kinds of things don't seem to bother him, because then he's going further about what he's going to do specifically in Rafah, where they're literally on the edge of the biggest disaster that has struck this more than 4-month war now.
I've instructed the army accordingly to give us a plan, a dual plan. One, to vacate the population, the civilian population, because we're not fighting them, we're fighting the terrorists. And secondly, to destroy those remaining battalions. Victory is within reach, and we should all strive for that common target to destroy Hamas, because that gets all the other objectives within our purview. It also gets something else. It gives us hope for the Middle East, hope for peace. You can't have that with Hamas remaining intact.
That is absolutely delusional. That destroying all of these people in the Gaza Strip is going to bring peace to the Middle East. My God, has he not looked in the Red Sea to see that the Houthis started attacking Red Sea shipping after he went in there and started killing large numbers of Palestinian people? Has he not looked into Iraq, into Syria, where all these Iran-backed groups have risen up in large numbers since he went into Gaza to attack and now kill American people? Is he blind, or is he delusional, or is he just lying? I don't know which it is. I can't say. I can't crawl into the man's head, but I can tell you categorically that what he's saying is not true. And this whole myth here, he said in the previous clip about if we don't go into Rafah, that equals you telling me to lose the war. That's complete nonsense. There is absolutely a right way to do this, and they are doing it the categorical opposite of what's right. And that you have intelligence-driven, targeted operations that protect the civilian population, not just give them a safe passage out, but actually protect them. Americans have done, and I've been personally observing. I've seen this. I've had 4 combat deployments of my own in Iraq and in Afghanistan, 2 cases on each in different wars. And I've seen us take care of the population. I've been part of taking care of the civilian population. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I can tell you he is lying when he says that they have been doing this marvelous job of taking care of the people, when clearly he doesn't take any care of the people. He's using words that he knows most Americans want to hear, but that they're not going to watch. They're not going to be aware of the deep dive stuff that you're watching now, so that you know the truth. And many people will just hear him say that, and because he's been this family friend for all these decades, and somebody that we trusted, the Israel, of course, going all the way back to World War II and the Holocaust and all that evil that was done to the Jewish race, they got a lot of credit for that. But now then it's time to say, hey, hang on, something that's bad, that happened bad to you, does not exonerate doing something bad to another powerless population. Let's get that straight. In no way is anything that genuinely happened horrifically during the Holocaust does not validate doing something similar to another population by those very same people. We need to get that clear. The next thing that he does, he's got a math problem. He's got a couple of problems here, but let me show you first his math problem.
That October 7th massacre was equivalent to 29 11s in one day, and the equivalent of 50,000 Americans slaughtered, burned, maimed, raped, beheaded, and 10,000 Americans taken hostage, including mothers and children. So what would America's response be?
So, okay, you want to do some math? Let's do some math there. So he's trying to generate these big numbers by saying, okay, our country has whatever it is, 6 to 8 million people. And so the percentage wise, it would be the equivalent on 9/11 of if you, instead of 3,000 people, lost 50,000 people. It's a huge number. Okay, well, let's maintain consistency with that. So if that's what was done percentage wise, the American population, what about the Palestinian population? What he has done to them. So that is the equivalent of the American side of 420,000 deaths and nearly 300 million people displaced. So you want to do math? You want to do correlations? Very well. We'll do that correlation, but we'll also do the other one so you have an apples to apples comparison. That is what is the trauma that is being done to the entire Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. So again, he's twisting things around to make it sound to an American audience, because that's who the target is here, the American audience, so that we keep supporting them, so that we ignore all of these factors we see, like the videos you see here that you've been seeing forever. He wants you to ignore that and do what he wants to do. But look, this is not actually, that's not the only problem he's got. There's also one other problem he has, and we'll let him talk for himself.
We're proceeding as no other army has on earth in taking precautions to prevent civilian casualties. We're putting flyers in there. We're calling on the cell phones Palestinian civilians, telling them to get out of harm's way. Hamas is trying to keep them in harm's way at gunpoint and often at gunfire. We are creating safe corridors. We're allowing humanitarian help to get to safe zones. We have to maintain coolness of judgment, the right efforts to secure civilian exit, but at the same time, iron determination to wipe Hamas off the face of this earth, and that's something we will do. We will do it, and we will do it responsibly.
And we will do it responsibly. That's the delusion that I keep talking about, that he is lying to the American people. Look, folks, I get it. Lots of people love Israel. I think I've mentioned before, I was set to go on a vacation to Israel just 3 months from now. My wife and I, we love Israel. We have our whole lives. And I still, to this day, love the Israeli people, because he is not acting, at least not in the benefit of all of them. He is acting on his own, and he is just doing terrible damage to the Israeli people. Everything that happened on October 7th was a horrific crime. It was a terrorist attack of the highest order that any nation on the planet, most assuredly to include ours, would have responded and retaliated right away. No questions asked. No one's even asking that question now. He's still, even as I'm making this video, totally validate the right that they have to self-defense. But they do not have the right to slaughter equally innocent people in substantially higher numbers in that. Now, Netanyahu's got additional problems, not just math, but he's also got some domestic problems. Because, look, there have been some large protests, and I mean some big ones. These are just from the last couple of nights here. This has been going on for a while. You don't see this much in the Western media. But these people are protesting because they're tired of what Netanyahu's doing. They recognize what I've told you, that they're bringing more fire on their people. They're creating more instability. They're creating more anger, more violence against them. Netanyahu is laying the foundation for future destruction of their people. More violence, not less. And if you think that's being lost on anybody, here's a couple of Israeli citizens in this very protest that had this to say.
I'm here because I am strongly against the violence that is happening in the Gaza Strip. As an Israeli citizen, I'm devastated to live my life normally while this is happening an hour away from me.
The situation is just unbearable. The government we have here is just destroying the country, destroying the future of my children. We are in a situation that is so sad and so deeply, deeply disturbing that we just cannot continue to stay home and not say anything. We need to have elections.
So that's what's happening within Israel out there. Now, so I'm showing you that the Israeli people even are not buying this load of horse crap coming out of Netanyahu's mouth there. And now then, let me show you graphically what's going on. So you just saw me tell you that Netanyahu said, we're very careful. We're the army that's doing the greatest job to take care of the civilian population. What you're seeing on your screen right now is from a couple of days ago. This was a tent city, and you see this massive carnage that's happening in an area where people had already gone just to escape the bombing. He talks about these corridors, these safe corridors, and we're helping them out, telling them where to go by phone to these locations, and then he bombs them. Look at that screen, my friends. Does that look like somebody who is doing the best job of any army on the planet to take care of the civilian population? Look, I don't care what his words are. I don't care what he claims. I don't care how sincere he looks when he goes on American television. These graphic images right here are the truth. He does not care about the civilian population. He is out to eradicate it. Now, whether he's trying to drive them into Egypt, as you saw in that clip a minute ago, the Egyptians are saying, hey, if you keep pushing this area here, we may abrogate the treaty that's been in place since the Camp David Accords, decades long. Because so that could actually lay the foundation for potential future war. If things get bad enough, and they're not there yet for Egypt, but if they get bad enough, they're potentially going to break that treaty, and then God only knows what could happen then. Because we have relative peace, and we were moving with the Abraham Accords in a good direction. That's now all shot. And Netanyahu is doing everything he can to sabotage those. He is not bringing peace to his people. He is bringing more danger to America. Our warship was almost hit the other day in the Red Sea while we're trying to patrol that. We've already had 3 soldiers killed, scores of soldiers wounded throughout Iraq and Syria. All of it as a result of what Netanyahu is doing. This is not what he did to defend his people. This is the over the top of what he has done. Now, what has our president done? What has he said? And this is where I think we showed in a previous episode where Netanyahu came on and emphatically said, I will tell even my American allies no when I have to do what I want to do, while he, by the way, keeps getting our money and our supplies. He wants to do that. But of course he's going to do that when he sees that there's no strings attached to money, when he sees that no matter what we say in these statements, no one ever tells him no on anything. He's going to keep going. This is about as close as we've seen Biden say to him, even a little bit sideways.
I'm of the view, as you know, that the conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top.
Wow, that's so strong. I think it's been over the top. Now, you saw all those clips I just showed you of Netanyahu, and you've seen plenty of them on your own anyway. That is a guy who is on a mission, and he is the alpha male without any question. He is calling the shots, and he doesn't care about what anybody says, and it's very self-evident that he does. And then when you see the Americans giving him everything he's asked for, all the money, all the plane loads of ammunition, all the plane loads of supplies, intelligence support, and then you hear this very tepid statement of over the top, but no change and no demands for anything. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to keep going in ways that are antithetical to American interests. I need you to understand this part. Look beyond any emotion you may have about how good that friend of yours has been for these last decades, and look at the graphic evidence before you. Netanyahu is violating American values and norms by killing large numbers of absolute innocent people. That one picture I just showed you at the end of the tent city being wiped out, the whole section of it just gutted. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know on that one image alone. And of course, it's not alone. There's a great many of them. And the next that he's putting at risk our economic security, because all of these things in the Red Sea are a direct and explicit tie to what Israel's doing in the Gaza Strip. So all this interdiction of shipping, which is now affecting economies because it's more expensive to ship things through the Suez Canal, all that is starting to affect economic things, not to mention our warships in the area, which are at threat of actually being struck, as nearly happened the other day. Even though I've been arguing that President Biden should remove our our vulnerability in Iraq and Syria and get our troops out, he hasn't done it so far. So that still remains a point of vulnerability. They're going to continue trying to kill our troops there. So directly now, our troops are under fire because of what Netanyahu continues to do without relenting. Every way you want to look at it, American national interests and American physical lives have been sacrificed because we won't tell Netanyahu no. Folks, that's the hard truth, whether anybody wants to accept it or not. You can't argue with those things. They're all directly tied together. These people, these so-called American experts that have been also going on television and trying to claim, oh, there's no connection to this at all. They're delusional too. I mean, you can't get past the evidence on the ground. I don't care what anybody's saying. You always go back. What is the reality on the ground? And this is the reality on the ground that I've laid out to you. It's self-evident. So when you keep hearing these people say not, and then we should actually expand the war by going into Iran, that would be the exact opposite of what we need to do. The most proximal way to improve American national security is to put pressure on Netanyahu to stop slaughtering people in these innocent people in Palestine, to not shove them out of an area where they can't go anywhere after telling them that was supposed to have been the safe place to go. Netanyahu will never kill his way to peace. Let me just categorically, point blank say that. He will never kill his way to peace. By trying to do so, he will bring instability and insecurity to his population indefinitely. That's the reality of what we're facing right now. Now, fortunately, President Biden hasn't done anything But at least there's one Jewish American who actually is saying, I'm going to take what influence that I do have and what knowledge that I do have, and I'm going to call things out. So it's not just Daniel Davis Deep Dive. There are other well-known Americans who are saying this.
One of the worst humanitarian disasters in modern history is now unfolding before our eyes in Gaza, today, right now. And we, as the government of the United States, are complicit. It has been 4 months since Hamas's terrorist attack started this war, and what we in Congress do right now could well determine whether tens of thousands of people live or whether they die. Already, the human cost of this Israel-Hamas war has been staggering. 1,200 innocent Israelis were killed in the initial terrorist attack, and more than 100 are still being held hostage. And as I have said many times, Israel has the right to defend itself against Hamas terrorism, but it does not have the right to go to war against the entire Palestinian people. And the question that we as Americans and as the United States Congress must ask is how many more children and innocent people will be smashed by Netanyahu in this process? Madam President, it is quite clear that beyond total destruction of Gaza, Netanyahu has no plan. Netanyahu is starving the children of Gaza. We cannot be complicit in this atrocity. As long as this bill contains money to fund Netanyahu's cruel war, I will do everything I can to oppose it, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. With that, I yield the floor.
You know, it used to be, and in fact, probably still would be, any nation on the face of the planet that was doing that to children, we would be just in horror. We would be beside ourselves. We would be doing every economic, diplomatic, legal, political, military, even anything we could do to prevent that, to protect children. That's supposed to be a hallmark of the American way, that we care about the innocent and the downtrodden and those who are powerless to help themselves. And yet here, every day, folks, we see it splashed across our screen. But because it was done by that good friend of ours who lives in our basement that we've known since college, we just turn a blind eye because of what he used to be. But we can't do that any longer. If it comes down to an affiliation with a man, an individual, the current prime minister of Israel and his policies, we have to prioritize the people of Israel, the people of Palestine, and American national interest have got to predominate. They have got to rise above our fealty to this one individual man in Israel. We have got to change that. That has got to be our policy. It literally makes no sense on any level for us to continue to just completely hand over our policy to what one single man tells us. I'm reiterating that for a very specific purpose, to show you, to get through that it is not making any sense for us to do this, and we need to change course right now. And I think I'd love to see the President of the United States finally step up and say, I care more about the Israeli people, the Palestinian people, and even the American people. Seems like those ought to be reversed, but if it's not, at least they're in the process. I'd like to see him say, we're going to start doing what makes sense for all of those people. And Mr. Netanyahu, you can do whatever you want. You're the prime minister of that country. That's up to you, but you're not going to do it with our bombs and our ammunition and our intelligence support until you make radical changes in how you do it. That's what ought to happen, because that's what that President Biden holds people like me to. When he sends us into places like Iraq or Afghanistan in the past, or any of these places we go to, we have very high standards of the military that we're demanded that we adhere to, or we are held accountable. And I've seen it done. We have been held accountable when we fail in that direction. Why would he give a complete pass to an ally and not even ask them, or not demand, not ask, because he has kind of asked, to demand that they stand to the same standards we do, or they're on their own. That's what he should do, and I hope that he does it. Thanks for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Come back at noon, because we're going to have Doug McGregor going to be talking about some other very important issues about some of the myth of American exceptionalism, in that, like Biden says a lot, we're this greatest country in the history of the earth, and the implication being that there are no limits on anything that we do. And we keep going down that path, there's going to be some problems, and Doug's going to help show you how. Tune back in at noon today. Then we have another one with Cyrus Jensen later in the afternoon on the China issue. That's kind of been buried a little bit, but that's starting on the rise, and you're going to want to tune in on that too. We remain unintimidated and uncompromised, even if it's a touchy issue like this one, to bring you the truth and the things you need to make sense of your world. Thanks. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you at noon. Thanks.